ago, you go to Saudi Arabia, and I mean, diversification, they'd talk to you about petrochem. And today, like, the economy is suddenly truly becoming diverse. It's healthcare and it's tourism. It's 10 years ago, you barely had women in the workplace. And today, like, it's an astonishing involvement in every part of society. So, given that, like, where are the AI is kind of hitting your economy almost from scratch as a diversified and integrated society with what, 30 million people, whatever it is. How are you deploying AI with people who are looking completely differently at the world today?
Well, first of all, I would disagree with coming from scratch. You'll be surprised how tech-savvy and tech-native the Saudi population is. 70% of the Saudi population are below the age of 35, and the majority of them are as comfortable with digital technologies as any other country in the world. In terms of policy and regulation, when Vision 2030 was launched by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, we identified technology as the key enabler, AI included, and started building the policy, the regulation, the platforms within the country, the data centers for the sovereign data sovereignty that was key for portions of the data. But in addition to data privacy, we had an open data. We talked about diffusion and access to compute, but access to data to achieve the same purpose of research, drug discovery, productivity improvement. Having a policy also of open access to data was a pillar that was launched before COVID. This is back in 2018 and 19. We have a ministry-level organization called SADAIA, the Saudi AI and Data Authority, that regulates and sets the guidelines with flexibility to allow the evolution of AI to take place and the innovation to take place. But it also protects and regulates and makes sure ethical standards. Within the UNESCO, Saudi Arabia was one of the first countries that proposed guidelines for the country on ethics in AI. Then we create a national champion, which is co-invested by the PIF, our sovereign wealth fund, and Aramco, that is investing at scale way beyond the need of Saudi Arabia and the Middle East. Because as I mentioned in my first question, we think AI is going to be a very key pillar of the global economy, and it's going to be globally traded, and therefore connectivity. And we are playing to our strengths, but we're also quickly bridging the gaps that we recognize we have. So we're developing our own LLM. SADAIA developed the first Arabic large model called Alam, and now it's owned by Humane, which is our national champion, and they're building on it. We have applications. I can tell you many use cases where over the last few years we have deployed AI applications in healthcare. It has cut the time to diagnose diabetic eye disease by 80%, and the rate of and the thousands of man hours of clinical physician hours have been saved in that case. We have our renewable energy company, Aqua Power. They have cameras on the blades of their winds that identify birds approaching from far away, and if they think they're coming near the windmill, they shut.
You got to tell President Trump about that.
They shut. Okay, the same company have reduced their chemicals in water desalination by 30% using AI, and the use cases are abundant. So we're not starting from scratch. Going back to Kristalina, we're in your first category.
I have not declared either India or Saudi Arabia in the second category, so I stand to accept your claim.
Thank you. Everyone is in the first category. Going forward, we have participation prizes. There's no problem.
I'm not going to go that far.
You wanted to jump in.
I think we should, let's not talk about Saudi Arabia or India for a moment, but let's just talk about the global north as a whole and the global south as a whole. the diffusion report that we released a couple of weeks ago estimated that today generative AI is used by 25% of the population in the global north, but only 14% in the global south, and the gap is getting wider.
Yeah.
So if you zoom out and you say, what does this mean for the future of the world? I put it in the context of infrastructure and the history of infrastructure. Why is the world so divided economically? Well, I'd say a large part of it is because during the entire colonial era, the colonial powers invested in building railroads in places like India and across Africa. They were important to move troops, to control territory, to extract minerals, but they never built power plants for the population. Will AI exacerbate this divide, or will it close it? It's only going to close it if we embark on building infrastructure across the global south, and we need strategies that stimulate demand, that furnish supply. India, Saudi Arabia, they're on the right track. It's hard to look at Africa as a whole and be equally optimistic, and we need to think about that as well.
So as we move into the last segment, and if any question or two, raise your hand. I will try. I see a couple. Okay, we'll try to get there. I want to talk a little bit about the governance environment. And you just mentioned, a big problem, which is, absent international governance, trying to figure out how you're going to build this infrastructure. I mean, in this environment, it's hard to say that the Americans are more committed to that than they have been the last 5, 10 years. China's been pretty inward-looking in many ways the last 5, 10 years. Those are some big challenges. This space is moving a lot faster than governance capabilities. So if you could wave your magic wand over the next few years, with most of the leaders that we presently have now, what are 1 or 2 things that you think are feasible that would actually improve governance, that would make a positive difference in addressing both the challenge that you just raised, but also some of the others that we've been talking about the last 30 minutes?
Well, the first thing I would say is look back at the skilling topic, because it's a lot cheaper for governments to invest in skilling than it is, frankly, to invest in data centers. But if you invest in skilling, you start to stimulate demand for the private sector to invest in data centers. You can skill government employees. That has proven to be a very effective strategy for kickstarting demand. You can skill data scientists. You can do that through universities. That's where you start to get people who can then build the local applications. And I just think it is a critical element that is not getting the attention it deserves.
Khalid, what is the piece of governance or regulation that if you saw it in a country around AI, you would say, this will make me materially more interested in investing in it?
In governance?
Yes.
Well, generally, I think the concern we have with AI is biases in the data sets that the models have been learning from. So as someone who's coming from Saudi Arabia and the Middle East, it's important for us to also build our own sovereign models and to make sure that unbiased data is fed and taught to the models so that they are fit for purpose for us. They need to be consistent with our values. And our value sets have to be protected, because AI, as we gain all of the efficiency and productivity and competitiveness that we inevitably will gain, we also don't want to lose our value and our character. And that, I think, is an issue of global governance, where we have to recognize that these models and these applications cannot be developed in one country, say Europe, US, China, whatever it is, and then assume to be relevant and applicable to every other country.
Okay, last comment before I go to a couple of questions. Ashwini, I wanted to say, I know that you, and the way you think about regulation and governance in India,